Good morning and welcome to this week's IGTV. Today I'm talking about how do you find your teenager a therapist? I mean, you know they need help, they've agreed to get help, so what is the next step and how do you know if you found the right one? These are really important and valuable questions that you probably have if this is your current situation. And today I want to address some really key questions that you need to be asking, agreements that you need to make so that you and your teen can have the best experience of this support, of this professional support experience, okay? All right, so let's dive in. Today's gonna be a little shorter than what my normal ones are, and I'm gonna be a little more casual and a little less, because that's where I'm at today, so. Okay, so here's I wanna walk you through the steps of what works and what doesn't. It will never work for you to mandate getting therapy or counseling to your teenager. Doesn't work. If you look at the statistics of court mandated or court required counseling or therapy like that is required by the legal system, whether it's anger management, it happens often in separations or divorce that one of the parties is required to go and seek treatment or therapy. It is one of the first things that the therapist or counselor will say to, excuse me, on an intake form. It will say, is this court mandated? Because they know the person coming in, they don't want to be there. They don't necessarily see the value of it. And the results, and this is not against great therapists or great counselors, but the results from any therapy or treatments that are mandated and not by choice are very low. There's a very low positive outcome from that, okay? Because change is by choice. Say it with me. Change is by choice. Change does not come through control or enforcement. So that's one. You cannot force therapy on your teen. Don't even bother. Number two, this is actually really hard, is if your teenager needs help and you know they need help, but they won't get help. So then what do you do? Hi, thank you, Alara. Yes, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you in the United States, my gorgeous, amazing friends who I am so grateful to have as part of my communities. I truly am grateful for all of you. Happy Thanksgiving today. I'm glad to be joining you. Okay, if your teenager needs help and is refusing help, here is, oh, Brian, yeah, it's Turkey Day. Here is something that I want to offer for you. Many teenagers, even if they know they need help, will not seek help or allow help because it is the definitive marker for them that they are in fact a failure. It is a definitive marker for them that they are not measuring up, they are broken, and they are less than. So even if they know they need help, they will refuse help if that is their mindset around getting help. Oh, excuse me. Well, that was unexpected. Okay, and we're back. Take two. Okay, so this is what I tell parents often, is if your teenager needs some professional support. Sorry, I'm going to do it again. And excuse me. Thank you, Brian. Oh my goodness. Well, isn't this just turning out? So, okay. I do not have a cold or anything. I don't know what's going on. Okay. So if your teenager has resistance, if your teenager has resistance to seeking help, here's what's critical from you, not forcing the help. Because when you force the help, you create a gap. You're building the divide between what they need and their perception of it. Anything you try and force or control, your teenager will dig in their heels and push away from. You do not want them pushing away from help when they need the help. What I need you to do instead is to normalize getting help. Normalize asking for help. Normalize talking to crazy people like me on the internet. Normalize when you struggled. Tell them about a time when you struggled with your mental health or with education or in a job, and maybe you had a mentor in your life, or maybe you turned to your parents, or maybe you sought therapy and counseling. Please tell your parents or tell your children about those times. Normalize struggle. You're wanting your teenager to go get help, but you're not telling them about the time you got help. Okay. The number of parents that I speak with who have sought therapy or counseling themselves during some really tough mental health challenges, times in their life, chapters, and they've never shared that with their children. And now their children is in exactly the same boat. And I think, okay, you did not walk this path and learn what you learned to have it sit in an archive gaining cobwebs rather than be the opportunity as your teenager's survival guide. That's not what your challenges were for. Your challenges were not for hiding. Your teenager needs to know. So you need to normalize struggle, normalize getting help, normalize getting a coach. Do you know that Tiger Woods had 42 different coaches at one time? Wayne Gretzky, Kobe Bryant. Did you know that all of the big names, whether they're business people, CEOs, speakers, sports people, those people have all had multiple coaches, therapists, mindset, and performance experts, all of them. Normalize getting help, okay? And share what feels appropriate about your circumstance when you sought help. Share that. Okay, so that's number 2. The third thing is I know that literally affording a therapist or a counselor is not a joke. Okay, it's a very real budgetary concern right now, and I honor and respect that. Finding the right person looks like a couple things, because as a parent, your teenager needs help and you're like, well, now what do I do? What do I do? Where do I even start? Okay, so here's what I will tell you. First of all, ask around. Ask your friends, post on social media in a way that is respectful to your teenager. Please, 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 in a way that is respectful for your teenager. Ask around. Specifically, don't just find a therapist who fits your budget and your insurance plan. That's part of it for sure. Budget and insurance plan, that's part of it. I want you to find a therapist who specifically is trained in dealing with whatever specific mental health challenge your teenager has. So whether that is learning challenges, is this a therapist who is qualified or has personal experience, perhaps themselves, with ADHD, cognitive retention, anything. If that person isn't specifically trained in or has experience with what you are looking for your teenager, I don't know why you're spending your very hard-earned money on that person. This is no shade against them, okay? No shade against them. I asked my preteen, would you be more comfortable talking to me, your dad, or, oh, that's so wonderful. Yes, that's wonderful. Now, here's the only thing I want to say about that. When you asked your preteen, who they would be more comfortable talking to, that's wonderful. The only thing is, you and I were not even taught how to parent, let alone be perhaps the professional that your teen needs. So I don't mean that in any disrespect whatsoever. Your question was wonderful. And I know you are the expert at your teen. You know them better than anybody else. But let's just be careful about the line we draw on our level of expertise in supporting our child, given that we weren't even taught how to parent. So let's be careful of that. Okay, so when you're finding a therapist, I want you to reach out and ask. I want you to make sure that that therapist is specifically trained in or has personal experience with the struggle that your teenager is going through. That means that this therapist or counselor or psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever you can access, are they trauma informed? And what does that mean? Trauma informed means that any particular long-standing stress that is still with you today, that is irritating or bothering you today, that has your nervous system be hijacked as if that situation was still happening, but it's not, that's trauma, my friends. That's trauma. And many children are experiencing trauma, and this is also proven, just because of the pandemic. Just because of the pandemic. Whether it was losing their social life, losing their life as they knew it, not knowing who they are now, their social anxiety has gone up. There is trauma just because of the pandemic for many, many teens. Gosh, you're an amazing parent that you would be so willing to just be so present and listen to your preteen. That's fantastic. Fantastic. High fives to you. So make sure this therapist is trauma informed. Make sure that this therapist isn't just about talking. Okay? So qualifications are really important, whether it is training or personal experience. So you may need to interview the therapist or counselor yourself to find out, of course, fees, insurance plan, wait list perhaps, because that can be a big barrier to getting the right help. And then what is that counselor or therapist's passion? ADHD, learning problems, anxiety, depression. What is their passion? What is their skill set? And what is their personal experience? Please find that out and ask, okay? Ask. Then I want you to narrow it down, if possible, to 3, 2 or 3, okay? 2 or 3. Here's the big one. Do not choose your teenager's therapist or counselor for them. Do not choose for them. That would be like you choosing my best friend. The number one thing that makes all professional support, therapist, counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist, I don't care what, a coach, I don't care what you are, is emotional safety. And you cannot be the judge of whether or not I feel emotionally safe with this person that you have chosen. Only I can be the judge of that. You cannot. So please do not choose your teenager's therapist for them. Here's the other thing that happens with this. If you choose your teen's therapist for them, they feel like that's the only option. So even if they don't love them and it's not really working, they're going to feel guilty by saying, it's not working, because they know and respect, they know how hard you work to find that person. So by saying no to the professional support, because it's not really a match for them, not really working, they feel like they're saying no to you and they're disappointing you. So you set yourself up to be paying for therapy or professional support of some kind that may not be working, and your teenager is set up to have to accept it. Do not choose your teenager's therapist for them. Don't do it. If you can, I also want you to ask your teenager, would you prefer in-person or would you prefer Zoom or just a phone call? Find out what modalities work for your teen so that then you can use that in your search criterion, okay? That's absolutely critical. Now, once you have 2 or 3 different therapists that work for you within your budget, insurance plan, wait list, whatever, let your teenager be empowered to set up some of the initial interviews if it works for them. Now, if they're really overwhelmed and they're not in a great place, you are going to need to set up those initial interviews. Your teenager may not have the mental capacity to advocate for themselves in that way. So you set up them or you, okay, set up the original, usually it's a consult, it's maybe 15 minutes. And then circle back with your teen because I want you to empower your teen to choose. Empower your teen to say, here's what I want you to notice, like just kind of be noticing in this 15-minute call with these people. Do you feel safe with this person? And I know 15 minutes seems weird, right? Like 15 minutes is like, how are they going to do that in 15 minutes? Your intuition, their unconscious emotional brain is already hyperactive. They're hypersensitive as a teen. They know. They know. Trust their hunch and tell them, I trust your hunch. I trust your judgment. All I want to know is, do you feel safe with this person? And you tell me whichever one works. And once you've determined which one they chose, the empowerment to choose, oh my gosh, I can't explain. The empowerment to choose is one of the biggest buy-ins you will ever help your teenager create, is empowerment to choose. So they've chosen this person. Now you need to also let them know it's okay to change their mind. It's okay to get 2 or 3 sessions in and go, yeah, I don't know. Then there's a difference. Talk to your teen about this. There's a difference between I don't feel safe with this person and I don't feel safe in this process. Because it is likely they may not feel safe in this process because it's inherently going to unfold things, unwrap some things, right? And that may feel unsafe. And it's okay for them to pump the brakes with this person and say, this feels too fast for me. I'm not sure about this process. You want to continually empower your teenager to self-advocate, to say, I feel safe with you, but this process doesn't feel safe. Do you have another process we can use? Or I'm not ready for this process yet. Whatever it is, empower your teenager to be in the driver's seat of the process, and also notice when they're avoiding the process. And only they know, okay? This isn't up for you to judge. I'm just saying be on your teenager's team, okay? One question that parents need to get them ready for so they don't freak out. Ask your child, would you thought? Oh, yes, we will discuss that. Yep, absolutely. Okay, I'll get to that question. Okay, so all you can do at that point is now continue to encourage your teenager to be as much of the part of the process as they have mental capacity to. Just because your teenager doesn't set up the appointments doesn't mean they're lazy and they don't care and they're irresponsible. Please stop that. If your teenager doesn't set up the appointments, it's because they are too overwhelmed and don't have the capacity or are afraid to. So this is a very fine line. And it's a fluidity of advocating for your teen and empowering them to advocate for themselves. Advocate for them, empower them to advocate for themselves. It's a fluid line, okay? So they're going to therapy and you are encouraging them to advocate on, yes, I like this process. There are therapists and psychologists, counselors who use different modalities like I do. I use EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It is about tapping on different meridians in the body, which help the unconscious brain to actually release that which it's storing, and it's very good for trauma and PTSD. But you see what I just did there? A lot of teens are like, I'm not doing that. That's so dumb. That's like weird. And I'm not, well, that's cool. All good. I'm just saying that additional modalities tend to create faster results than purely talking. I am not a fan of talk therapy myself. I've paid thousands of dollars in therapy, and talk therapy alone can be proven to continue to perpetuate the problem and sustain the anxiety and stress because it's not actually providing the unconscious brain with tools to process, heal from, and release that which is holding them in this state. So be willing to look at therapists or counselors who use different modalities. EMDR is great. Psychosomatic healing is really great. Cognitive behavioral therapy, I've found mixed results with that. I'm sorry. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming is another one. Just be open to different modalities, okay? All right, so your teen's going to therapy, and then there's this and that, okay? Now, I want you to be really clear with the therapist. To create an agreement with the therapist around these things, which was one of the comments here that I want to address. The therapist has an ethical requirement to report. It's called duty to report. They have an ethical requirement to report when someone is at danger to themselves. So self-harm, unaliving, or at danger to someone else. Okay, they have a legal obligation to report that. Okay. I want you to make an agreement with the therapist or counselor. I know I'm using the word therapist kind of synonymously with all professional support at this point, okay? I want you to create an agreement with them. Now, ethically, they are not allowed to reveal anything that your teenager says to you. Not one word. And if this therapist is revealing things to you, that's a breach of ethics. That's a breach of trust with your teen, and it will not work. So I want you to understand that. But I want you to make a very clear agreement with your therapist, with this therapist, that you guys and your teen, it's called a triad. It's a 3-way agreement that you're going to check in after 60 days. Okay? You're going to check in after 120 days. You're going to check in, and that this is what a check-in looks like, because you cannot ask for any part of the conversation to be revealed. 0. Okay? What it looks like is these 2 things. For your teenager, it looks like this. Do you continue to feel safe with this person such that you are willing to reveal the hard stuff and or have the therapist challenge you and ask hard questions? Because if that's not happening, I don't know what you're paying for. If that's not happening, I don't know what you're paying for. It is not the therapist or counselor's job to be nice or friendly. And there are far too many, and I know this is going to brush some people the wrong way, but there are far too many therapists who make a living out of being a really nice person that someone is coming to talk to, but is never truly invested in, nor has the skills to actually progress someone toward a more sustainable lifestyle and perhaps healing. And I have a lot to say about that. I have a lot to say about that. Because you work freaking hard for that money, and you deserve to see something other than perpetuating a problem and filling someone's bank account. I am not in support of that whatsoever. And I personally can speak to that because I have fired clients who were not actually prepared to do the work. We were going around and around and around in circles, and nothing was really changing. And I fired them because it felt so out of integrity for me to continue to take their money when we weren't doing anything. So, yep, I stand firmly in that. Now, number 1, do they feel safe with that person in order to address the actual issue? Not just friendly, not just nice. That is not a requirement of a therapist. Emotional safety is critical. And that might look like being friendly and nice, but it's really this much of it. Emotional safety is, do you feel safe telling me the hard stuff, and can I ask you hard questions? Okay? The second part is, does your teen feel lighter after each session? Do they feel lighter? Now, I want to be really, really, really cautious about this question, and here's why. If your teenager doesn't feel lighter at the end of every session, be cautious, because the therapist's job is not to fix your teen. It's not to fix them. It's to help them bring greater awareness to what's going on for them in their life, to give them tools and strategies to navigate hard things, to even release and heal from hard things. It's not to fix them, okay? But if your teenager doesn't feel lighter, like it's just like, yeah, I went and talked to a friend. They were nice and friendly. That's not an effective use of your money or their time. That's not it. Do they feel lighter is that there is a continuation, some form of continuation of increased awareness, insight, even just encouragement and positivity that's going on in these sessions, so that your teen is getting the value, getting the whole purpose, okay? Feeling lighter at the end of every session isn't about getting fixed. It's also not about there being a destination of being healed. Therapy is a journey. Mental health is a journey. It is not a destination-based thing. So, in everything I'm telling you, when you're doing these check-ins, this isn't about how many more sessions till my teen is done. Or like, are you healed yet? Or are you better yet? Like 6 months, right? 6 months and you're good, right? Because what will happen is your teenager will say the right things and they will do the right things so that you believe that they are in fact fixed in order to earn back your love and approval, and they will continue to deny, abandon, and suppress the part of themselves that still requires more help and is not okay. So this isn't about getting fixed. This is just about learning and navigating and perhaps healing and releasing. It depends on what the challenge is, okay? So if your teen feels lighter, that's great. When you're doing these check-ins with the therapist, though, the whole point is, how is my teen doing? Are they in any, and I need to make this agreement with the therapist, I am making agreement that I'm going to pay you, but the minute my teen is threatening or tells you about self-harm, then I need to know. If they are pregnant or get someone else pregnant, I need to know. And if they are threatening their life or someone else's life, I need to know. And you can set these parameters. Now, the therapist or counselor may say, hell no. Then you're like, okay, I'm going to move on. Those are my requirements. I know you can't reveal anything to me about this. You can let me know if you think, how do you think my teen's progressing? Does it seem like they're willing to participate in this process? That's all you can ask, but you can ask that, okay? Is it correct if the therapist asks to book an appointment only when they need it? No, not in the beginning. In the beginning, therapy, professional mental health support, whatever you want to call it, consistency is king. Consistency is the key. And that usually looks like 6 months. 3 to 6 months of consistency in order to see some form of marked improvement, because it often gets worse before it gets better. Sorry, but it does. I know that from my own work. It gets worse before it gets better. And because you start unraveling things, like you start unpacking stuff, and it's messy and it's freaking hard. Okay. So, it is only after your teenager has either reached a plateau, which is part of all of our growth, okay? If they've reached a plateau or they really seem to have internalized some of the tools and strategies they've learned, they are executing on the lifestyle changes that they've learned that work for them. They've decided what coping techniques work for them, and they seem to be quite balanced and at a plateau, then it's okay to go on an as-needed basis. Or maybe go once a month, or have a standing session, because mental health is precarious. We can think we're having the best life ever. And in one moment, somebody says something or does something, and we are so far down in the weeds, we can't even find ourselves. So I would be careful of that. But if your teen meets that criterion, then I would say, yes, that's fantastic. I would also say, is this still the right therapist? Is the therapist at their top level of skill to help you? And I'm putting myself in this boat too, okay, in my work. Is the therapist at the top end of their own skill and experience? So you've plateaued because you're doing all the work and you're doing an amazing job, but this is no longer the best therapist to help you from here to here. This was the best therapist to help you from here to here. And I put myself in that boat too. I'm not skilled, trained, or have the authority to diagnose any mental health concerns. I do not deal with active addiction. Unless it is currently already being treated by medical professionals, only then can I accompany that treatment. I do not deal with domestic violence or abuse unless it is already being treated by other qualified professionals. Like, I have to understand my own professional scope and stand in that. So, okay, so that's it. So be prepared to be finding another therapist or counselor if there's been a plateau reached, but the plateau isn't just your teen, the plateau is having reached the top end of that particular professional scope. Okay? And that's not like against them. That's like, dude, you have been the best person to take my teen from here to here. You have been such a fantastic support. And now my teen is ready to move from here to here. So we're going to go find the next person. I love you and leave you. That's kind of how it works, okay? You do need to check in with your teenager often, again, because therapy can be exhausting. Therapy and mental health challenges and support can be exhausting. So it means checking in with your teenager often to see how they are feeling about the process. What can you do to support them at home? And it means that you don't sit around like a meerkat going, do they need me? Are they broken? Do they need fixing? What else can I do? Stop it. You need to get your own support and help. And that is one point that I stand firmly in, because it is proven that getting your teenager therapy or the help they need is really only about half of the solution. You, my friends, are the other half. You, as the parent, are in charge of creating their environment. That's your job. You create the culture in your home. And that the teenagers who tend to succeed the most with their own therapy and support are those whose parents also sought their own professional support. Now, getting a second therapist might be way out of range for you. I get it. That is why I run my private parenting community on Facebook. Yes, it's on Facebook. I know it's a dirty word, but that's the only place I can run it where I prioritize my time there every single day. I answer every single post personally, not a bot, not one on my team. I answer every single post every day personally during my office hours. I go live twice a month, 2 live Q&As a month. I'm doing one tonight in my private parenting community to give even more in-depth answers. And those videos stay in there for forever. I have guest speakers on topics like substance use, mental health challenges, self-harm. All of that is all in there. Exclusive content and downloads. And all my videos are searchable by keyword in that group. So you type in boundaries and you get the videos, not just a list of videos, because who's got time to watch those? That's stupid. The videos at the exact second where I said the word boundaries. So you get what you need when you need it. Okay? So if that's the last step in truly helping and supporting your teen, is be part of the solution, because it will amplify the results that are possible for your teen, for you, and for your relationship. And again, this is, it frustrates me that getting great professional support, there's such barrier to it for cost, wait list, insurance programs. I understand that. If you are interested in my private parenting community, you can tap on my name and then the link in my bio and get in really quick. Like in the next hour, you will become a founding member. It's $37 a month Canadian, which is about $30 US per month. Can you find a therapist for $30 a month US? And will they answer you every day? That's a hell no. I want to lower the barrier. I want to reduce as much barrier as possible to getting help and getting professional help when you need it. Like when your teen is literally throwing everything at you or falling apart on the floor and you need help now. That's why I created my private parenting community called the Empowered Parent Community. So the founding member, this is never ever going to happen again. The founding member pricing is only valid for another hour. And after that, it will go up. So if you want to become a founding member, you can jump in now. There's a free 14-day trial, so you can join my live Q&A in there tonight. And for free. You can check it all out for free. No commitment, zero, cancel at any time. But you will never get it at this price again. Because having professional support on call for $37 a month or $30 US every month, like, that's priceless. Not to mention everything else that's in that community. So if you are uncertain how to get to the link in my bio here on Instagram, make sure that you just go to my website, alipayne.com, and under work with me, it says the empowered parent community. It's my private parenting community. Okay. And you can start your free trial. Jump on in, and that will ensure you get the founding members price that will never be available again. Okay, everybody, I hope this was helpful on how to get your teenager a great therapist and the things that you need to look out for and ask so that you and your teen have the best experience of their professional support. You are getting the best possible service for your money, not necessarily results, because again, therapy is a fluid thing. It's not a destination. It's a journey. Okay. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I wish you a wonderful time with friends, family, to feel loved, rested, relaxed, refilled, and know that you truly are an amazing parent. I 100% believe you are doing the very best that you can in the world's hardest job for which there is no training. You are always welcome here. I believe in you, and I'm really grateful that you've chosen to be part of my community. I'd love a follow here on Instagram, tap the subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time because I will be on holidays next week. So, bye everybody.